The roar hits you first, thousands of voices compressed into a single wave of sound that vibrates in your chest. The arena in Paris is packed, bodies pressed shoulder to shoulder, faces flushed with excitement. They're not here for entertainment, they're here for justice. Medieval justice, which means two men are about to kill each other, while a crowd places bets, and God presumably watches from above, taking notes. The dirt floor of the arena is already churned to dust, kicked up by nervous pacing, by horses earlier in the day, by previous combatants whose names no one remembers. The air tastes like sweat and iron. Not from wounds yet, but from the weapons, from the armor, from the anxiety that clings to everything. On one side of the arena stands a man in gleaming plate armor, polished to a mirror shine. Every piece fitted perfectly to his body. Custom work. Expensive. He moves easily, testing his sword. A beautiful piece of craftsmanship, balanced, sharp, deadly. On the other side stands his opponent. Rusted chainmail that looks like it was pulled from a forgotten storage room. Dented helmet. A sword that's seen better decades. He shifts his weight, trying to find comfort in armor that doesn't fit right, that weighs too much, that offers protection in theory, but not in practice. My name is Arthur Graves, and I'm standing in a Parisian arena in the year 1386 watching what they call trial by combat. The concept is simple. Two men accuse each other of a crime. They can't prove it in court, so they fight to the death. Whoever wins was telling the truth. Whoever loses was lying. Because apparently, God micromanages medieval sword fights. I'm using forensic AI Reconstruction to witness this firsthand, and I'm here to tell you, God has terrible taste in legal systems. The rules are straightforward. Fight until one man yields, dies, or can no longer continue. No breaks, no timeouts, no referees stepping in to check if you're okay. The judges sit in a raised platform, draped in fur and silk, watching with the detached interest of people who will go home to warm beds regardless of the outcome. The crowd, however, is deeply invested, not in justice, in money. Bets are being placed faster than the fighters can draw breath. Coins change hands, merchants shout odds. A baker's apprentice puts down a week's wages on the rich guy. A blacksmith hedges his bet and splits it between both fighters, just in case God has a sense of irony today. And here's the thing about trial by combat. It's not about who's innocent. It's about who can afford better equipment. The rich guy over there? That's not just armor. That's a financial statement. Meanwhile, the poor guy looks like he raided a museum. Guess which one God's going to favor? The herald steps forward, voice booming across the arena, announcing the charges. The rich man, a minor lord, well-connected, respected, accuses the poor man of theft. The poor man denies it, claims he's innocent, claims he was framed. But he has no witnesses, no evidence, no powerful friends to vouch for him. So here they are. The crowd quiets for a moment as the herald finishes, then erupts again. This is the moment they came for. The gates close. The fight begins. The rich man moves first. Not aggressive, not reckless, calculated. He circles, sword raised, testing distance, watching his opponent's footwork. The poor man tries to mirror him but stumbles slightly, the weight of his ill-fitting armor throwing him off balance. The crowd notices. The odds shift. More money flows toward the rich man. The poor man swings first, a wide arc born of desperation, and the rich man steps aside easily, almost lazily. Doesn't even block, just moves. Efficient, trained. The poor man's sword bites into empty air, and the momentum nearly pulls him down. The rich man counters with a strike to the shoulder, controlled, precise. The blade clangs against the poor man's pauldron, a dented piece of metal that absorbs some of the impact but not all. The poor man staggers, recovers, swings again. Blocked. Again. Blocked. The rich man isn't trying to end this quickly, he's making a point. Demonstrating superiority, proving that God's judgment is already obvious to anyone watching. This isn't a fight, it's a performance. The rich guy could end this in 30 seconds, but where's the drama in that? Better to let everyone see that the outcome was never in doubt. Better to let the poor guy exhaust himself while the crowd gets their money's worth. Minutes pass. The poor man is breathing hard now. The weight of his armor and the weight of his situation pressing down on him. Sweat pours down his face, soaking into the padding under his helmet. His swings become slower, wider, more desperate. The rich man waits. Patience is easy when you're not tired. When your armor fits. When you've trained for this your entire life. He feints left, strikes right. The blade catches the poor man across the ribs. Not deep, not disabling, but enough. The poor man doubles over, tries to raise his guard, but his arms are heavy, too heavy. The crowd senses the end. The noise changes, shifts from excitement to anticipation. Bets are being settled early. The rich man steps forward, sword raised for a final strike. Not to the head, not instantly fatal, but to the leg. The blade crashes into the poor man's knee and he goes down. The armor doesn't break, but the joint underneath does. He collapses into the dirt, sword falling from his grip, one hand reaching instinctively toward the injury, even though there's nothing he can do. He's down. He's done. The herald calls it. The fight is over. God has spoken. The rich man is innocent, the poor man is guilty, case closed. And just like that, divine justice has been served. The guy with the better lawyer, better sword, wins. Funny how God always sides with whoever can afford custom armor. It's almost like the system is rigged. Almost. But here's where it gets worse. Because in trial by combat, losing doesn't just mean you lost the fight. It means you were lying, and liars don't get mercy. Guards move into the arena, dragging the poor man to his feet, or trying to. His leg won't support him. They half carry, half drag him toward the edge of the arena, toward the gallows that have been waiting patiently just outside. The crowd follows, streaming out of the seating area, eager to see the conclusion. Because apparently watching a man get beaten into the dirt isn't enough. They need to watch him hang. The poor man doesn't resist, can't resist. He's barely conscious, face pale, breathing shallow. They haul him up onto the platform, fit the noose around his neck. No final words, no last chance to proclaim innocence. The law has spoken. God has decided. The trapdoor opens. It's over. Let me get this straight. You fight, you lose. You're already broken, humiliated, and in excruciating pain. And then they hang you, because medieval justice really commits to the bit. If you're going to be wrong, you're going to be thoroughly wrong. The crowd begins to disperse, counting their winnings, discussing the fight, already moving on to the next thing. For them, this was a morning's entertainment. For the rich man, it was a legal victory. His name cleared, his reputation intact. He'll go home, remove his armor, have a warm meal. For the poor man, well, there is no for the poor man anymore. He's gone. Guilty by virtue of being poor, by virtue of having worse equipment, by virtue of living in a system where justice is a commodity and God's will is for sale to the highest bidder. Trial by combat wasn't rare in medieval Europe. It was a legitimate legal procedure, used for centuries to settle disputes when evidence was lacking or unreliable. The logic was simple. God would intervene on behalf of the innocent, granting them strength, speed, divine favor. In practice, God seemed to intervene, most often on behalf of people who could afford professional fighters, quality weapons, and expensive armor. Nobles rarely fought their own battles. They hired champions, trained warriors who made a living settling disputes for others. If you were poor, you fought yourself. If you were rich, you paid someone better. It's like hiring a lawyer, except the lawyer stabs people, and if your lawyer loses, you die. Medieval legal system. 0 stars, would not recommend. The French case in 1386, the one I'm witnessing, is historically documented. A knight named Jean de Carrouges accused a squire, Jacques le Gris, of assaulting his wife. Le Gris denied it. No one could prove it either way, so they fought. Thousands watched. Carrouges won. Le Gris was hanged. History recorded it as one of the last major trials by combat in France, a spectacle so brutal and absurd that even medieval society started questioning whether this was really the best way to handle legal disputes. It took a few more centuries, but eventually, they figured it out. The arena empties. Workers move in to smooth the dirt, prepare for the next event, maybe a tournament, maybe another trial, maybe just horses. The gallows are dismantled. The body is removed. By evening, there will be no trace of what happened here except for the coins in people's pockets and a few lines in a court record. Justice medieval style. Efficient, final, and utterly disconnected from anything resembling truth. Here's the thing about trial by combat. It didn't determine who was right. It determined who was stronger. And strength in medieval Europe was measured in gold. You want justice? Buy better armor. Hire a champion. Train for years. Or, be rich. That works too. The poor guy in the dirt? He might have been innocent. He might have been guilty. We'll never know. What we do know is that he couldn't afford to win. And in 1386, that was the same thing as being wrong. The sun climbs higher. Paris moves on. Merchants return to their stalls. Nobles return to their estates. The legal system, such as it is, continues. More disputes will arise. More fights will be scheduled. More men will die in the name of God's judgment, which coincidentally always seems to align with whoever has the most money. It's a perfect system, really, if you're the one with the money. Trial by combat eventually faded, replaced by courts, by evidence, by the radical idea that maybe beating each other to death wasn't the most reliable way to determine guilt. But it took centuries. Centuries of men dying in arenas, of justice being bought and sold, of God's will being invoked to justify outcomes that were decided long before the first sword was drawn. Progress is slow when the people in power benefit from the system. We like to think we've come a long way, and we have. But let's not pretend modern justice is perfect. It's just less stabby. You still need money for good lawyers. You still see different outcomes for rich and poor. The swords are gone, but the inequity, that's stuck around. We just dress it up nicer now. If this medieval nightmare made you grateful for boring modern courtrooms, hit that like button. Subscribe to see more history that makes you appreciate the present. I'm Arthur Graves. Stay curious, and maybe don't settle disputes with swords.